People have raised the question, how could Greek Orthodox people like Simonides and his uncle Benedict have created a Bible text that is totally contrary to their own Orthodox church? How could they have done that? They couldn't do that, could they? They were Greek Orthodox, right? But the Sinaiticus is totally not Greek Orthodox. But is that so hard to believe? Maybe not. I've shown in earlier videos my own professors in what was supposed to be a conservative seminary teaching totally heretical, Bible-doubting, unbelieving doctrines. Parents send their kids to Bible schools and seminaries, and they have no idea their kids are being subverted in the process. But I'm not here to tell you what could have happened. I'm here to tell you what did happen. Here is a case of where an entire town does know the liberal, unorthodox teachings of the professors and supports them and defends them against their own church. Welcome to the town of Cydonia, or Cydonia. The town of Ayvalik, or Cydonia, was an unusual case in the history of how Muslim Ottoman Turkish Empire treated the Greeks. They actually showed some compassion. In 1773, the Ottomans granted the Cydonians special privileges. First, the Muslim residents had to leave Cydonia, and other Muslims were forbidden to settle there. The city was declared independent. It was no longer under the Muslim governor of the region. Even Muslim observers seem to have left. To the Muslims, these privileges were being granted to the Christians of Cydonia. We call them people of the Eastern Orthodox religion. Other Greeks heard about these new freedoms and immigrated into the city. Many of them came to be free from the pirates who struck all around the Aegean Sea. The city had three major districts: upper, middle, and lower. The upper district was traditionally important families who more or less ran the community with some help from the middle district. The middle district was wealthy businessmen and merchants who had no social status, along with business employees and craftsmen. The lower district was mostly sailors, farmers, and other workers. Religiously, Cydonia was directly under the Orthodox Diocese of Ephesus, not the mother church of Constantinople. And it had 12 parish communities. The biggest one in the lower district was Zodokos Pigi, the life-giving spring or fountain, referring to Mary. 7 years later, a church was built in the lower district called the Virgin of the Orphans. This church had a courtyard. This must have been quite a big courtyard. According to the Encyclopedia of the Hellenic World, in that courtyard were built a small nursery, an elementary school, a Greek school, a library, and living quarters for the teachers and out-of-town students. It even had a hospital. According to the encyclopedia, this is where 4 teachers taught: Deacon Evgenios of Vorla, Francescos of Kea, Theodosius of Mudania, and the 4th, who's most interesting to us, Vissarion of Syme. It received its support from charitable contributions by the churches and wealthy citizens of Cydonia. Vissarion of Syme began teaching in the 4th year of the school in 1784, according to a tiny reference in a letter by Constantine Simonides. Vissarion we've met before under the name Benedict. Vissarion was a given name of Simonides' great uncle. Simonides wrote, First, that my Uncle Benedict, being by profession a theologian and versed in 12 languages, ... began this work while professor in the College of Cydonia in the year 1784. Simonides stated that Benedict, having removed to Mount Athos in 1819 for the sake of retirement and embraced the monastic life in the monastery of Ephesus, was named Benedict, ... having formerly had two names, Basileus and Bessarion. Simonides also tells us what Bessarion, or Benedict, did when he taught when he retired. Bessarion was intending to publish both the Old and New Testaments and the writings of the Apostolic Fathers with the exegetic scholia of the ancient commentators, Bible commentaries, and specially to reply to what had been written against the Septuagint. This was during the years when he taught. When he retired, Bessarion, now Benedict, while at Athos, he gave himself up particularly to the study of sacred scriptures. He collected the most ancient manuscripts of both testaments and of their commentators, and at considerable expense prepared his work for the press. That means Simonides' great-uncle Benedict, or Bessarion, was a teacher at the school of Cydonia for 35 years. But for Simonides' story to ring true, we have to believe and prove some amazing things. The Orthodox religion clearly used a New Testament that was pretty close to our King James New Testament. It was completely different from the Alexandrian Greek that is in Sinaiticus. How could Bessarion, now Benedict, have gotten away with pushing a completely heretical text on his students for up to 35 years? It looks like I found the answer. Hi, I'm David Daniels from Chick Publications. It is exciting to search through other sources and find backup even for the minor things stated matter-of-factly by Simonides. That's the mark of a truth teller. A liar may lie, even when he doesn't have to. But a truth teller states facts even when nobody will look them up. Okay, well I did, but I'm not normal. You get the point. So let's go back to the school started in 1780 in the lower district of Cydonia in the courtyard of the Virgin of the Orphans Church. There were 3 notable students. I will tell each of their stories one at a time. Ready? The 3 known students of the school were Veneman Lesbios, Theophilus Kairos, and Grigorios Seraphis. The first student was Veneman Lesbios, or Benjamin from the Isle of Lesbos. 10 years after the school opened in 1790, the wealthy patrons of the school gave Veneman a scholarship to study in Western Europe. When he returned 6 years later in 1796, Veneman taught physics, mathematics, metaphysics, and ethics. Fellow student Grigorios Seraphis taught Greek, but we'll get back to him later. The school became so popular that Veneman was invited to speak in schools all over the Aegean. But he said no. He brought with him all the latest books from Europe's Enlightenment, paid for by donations from the wealthy patrons. His science laboratory had all the latest telescopes, prisms, reflectors, maps, instruments, etc. At this point, some of the most advanced Greek education wasn't done in Greece, but in Asia Minor, now called Turkey. The three schools I mentioned in another video were located at Chios, Smyrna, and Cydonia. They were all located less than 100 miles from each other. In 1798, 2 years after Veneman returned from his studies in Western Europe, the aristocrats and the merchants basically settled their disputes and decided together to start an academy. 2 years later, in 1800, Veneman founded the Academy of Cydonia. But it only took 2 more years, 1802 to 1803, for the progressives at the school to threaten the traditional Orthodox religious leadership. That's when the Patriarchate of Constantinople put Veneman Lesbios under the magnifying glass. Boom. Veneman wanted the progressive European Enlightenment thinking to continue. He quickly sent the second student, his friend Theophilus Kairos, to Europe so he could replace Veneman regardless of what happened to him when Theophilus returned. Meanwhile, Veneman was charged by the Patriarchate of Constantinople with teaching carnal love and unscriptural teachings about the movement of the earth. A letter from the synod publicly called upon Veneman to recant his teachings and teach like the conservative monk, Athanasios Parios. Most of those teachers had been Athanasios' students. It also announced that his third student, Grigorios Sarafis, would replace Veneman. It appears that Grigorios, unlike the other two, learned locally and never absorbed the Western European thinking of the day. So they believed they could trust him with maintaining traditional Orthodox teaching after they fired Veneman. There were two opposing sides: the Patriarchate of Constantinople and supporting monks who wanted traditional religion, and the colleges and academies which wanted academic freedom to pursue the Western European ideas instead of Eastern Orthodoxy. Those were two different worlds. Some of you probably realize that one of the big ideas in Western Europe at this time was the falsely called science of paleography, created by Catholic Benedictine monks, Maurist monks, Maupion and Montfaucon. It was the con job that said a person could look at shapes and letters and forms of writing, and from that judge the age of a papyrus or vellum or other writing that looked ancient. What the students always forget is the fact that anyone can copy an older form of text. We tried that in elementary school. To even begin to figure out the actual dates of manuscripts requires scientific chemical tests. The Catholic system was good at manufacturing forgeries of ancient documents. The Benedictine Maurists had just perfected the con. So they taught Protestants to supposedly date the manuscripts they manufactured, getting them away from the preserved Bible manuscripts and down the rabbit trail of older and better Bibles. So the stage was set. Constantinople thought they were going to get the Academy of Cydonia to go back to traditional teaching. Wishful thinking. When have you heard of a Bible college or university going back to conservative ways? More than that, the Patriarchate wanted Veneman excommunicated and then replaced by conservative Grigorios Sarafis. But as I mentioned, Cydonia wasn't under Constantinople. It was directly under the jurisdiction of Ephesus. Specifically, the Metropolitan of Ephesus, Dionysius Kaliarchus. He had his own way to settle the matter. Metropolitan Dionysius asked for Veneman's teaching notebooks to be sent to him. Then he read and refuted the charges himself. You see, Dionysius was a progressive, just like the Academy and the wealthy and influential people of Cydonia. The merchants of Cydonia sent letters supporting Dionysius and Veneman because they believed the synod didn't have the right to dictate what they saw as educational matters. So in reality, Cydonia wasn't really a traditional Eastern Orthodox city at all. It was a college town. And proof of this wasn't far off. In 1812, Theophilus Caius returned from Europe carrying the same progressive ideas as Veneman and literally took his place as promised. Veneman Lesbios simply resigned, citing ill health. After that, the matter was basically settled. But if you noticed, Veneman won. Western influenced Theophilus, not Eastern traditional Gregorios, became the head guy. So they continued in their liberal ways till 1821, when the Turks destroyed the city and academy. And that, brothers and sisters, was the environment in which, for 35 years, Vissarion, Simonides' great Uncle Benedict, taught and did his life's work. Does this sound like an academy that would use a traditional Byzantine text? Or does it sound more likely they favor a Western-taught, paleographically older and better Greek text as was taught in Western Europe, reading Mabillon and Montfaucon? Even if they hadn't settled upon what that text was, it is likely that they were very open to something other than what the religious establishment of Constantinople so rigidly enforced. It was the perfect seedbed for great Uncle Vissarion to collect manuscripts that were different from the Orthodox New Testament and to justify it using Western paleography. So maybe Vissarion, when he became Benedict, didn't just want a printing press for the Tsar in return for his remade codex. Maybe he wanted that to be the beginning of a change in the churches from the Orthodox Byzantine Bible to an Alexandrian one. All he needed was a good exemplar, a master, so to speak, from which to make it. Benedict spent 45 years perfecting a text, but finally all that working day and night under candlelight ruined his eyes. That is why he asked his great-nephew, a master calligrapher from his childhood, to help. Then, in utter respect for his uncle, Constantine Simonides started working on the Alexandrian texts that were prepared for him to copy. It sounds like motive to me. I've already shown you means and opportunity. Both Benedict and Simonides had intellectual and educational means. And on Athos, since they're both documented as being there, both had opportunity. Now we have motive. The three elements of a probable deed are motive, means, and opportunity. Now you have all three, and I haven't even covered the political side of things yet. I hope you'll consider these facts. God bless you and have a wonderful day.